I feel when we talk about growth, immediately we get this reaction that, oh my God, growth, such a bad thing. We have been, I would almost say, traumatized by the paradigm of growth, capitalism, with endless growth as the driving factor. As a result of that, we're kind of looking for an antidote to capitalism. So we automatically say degrowth is the answer. And I'm all for the ideas behind it, but I feel degrowth cannot be an antidote to this new paradigm that we're creating, because the moment we say no to growth is literally the moment we say no to life. I mean, if we look at life, life is growth, so we need to realize that growth is not the problem, and growth never was the problem. The problem was how we did that growth. The problem was the consciousness of the people driving that growth, the consciousness of the people perpetuating certain systems, creating certain systems. That is the root cause, and that is the real problem of our current growth paradigm, if you ask me. If you look how nature works, nature is always growing, but growth in nature is completely different than our current understanding, because although growth in nature is perpetual, it doesn't always make a curve like this, Growth sometimes goes like that. Then there can be a plateau. Sometimes growth means slowing down, You might know that yourself. Sometimes the way to expand is by slowing down. Indigenous wisdom traditions know this, that growth is nature, that growth is life. But growth comes in cycles. Growth is never one linear, static, rising line like that. Sometimes growth looks like that. So if you are building a business and you're just looking at profits and always increasing profits, and that's the most important thing, then no, that's not sustainable. Because if you look at the whole system of the whole of a business, and you just look at increasing profits while everything is kind of, while your business is also destroying stuff in the world, then that growth is out of balance. You're basically growing one part of the whole while neglecting the other part. So inevitably that kind of one-sided growth will just crash, because that kind of growth is not sustainable. But if you build a business and you say, okay, year 1 or year 2 is about increasing profits, and then maybe the year 3 can be about a plateau where you reassess, okay, we've made profits, but how are we giving back to society? How is my business giving back? So sometimes growth can also mean assessing things in your business. Where does that profit flow out again? How can that profit be used in order to create new life, So what I'm trying to get to is an idea of growth that is holistic, that uplifts the entire system, that uplifts the whole, not very one-sided. I feel our current idea of growth, and that's not a judgment, but our current idea of growth is quite childish. And we also had to go through that state of evolution. I'm not saying that wasn't important, because we need to realize that contrast is also important for us to learn. And I'm saying also that contrast is really important for us to learn. We can only know what is good by knowing the opposite, in that sense. We can only know what is life-giving by experiencing what is not life-giving. So in a way, capitalism and this whole paradigm of one-sided growth has taught us so much about life, so much about ourselves. So by all means, I encourage you to grow. I encourage you to preach growth in your life. I encourage you to rethink your idea of what growth can mean and really means. And I encourage you to perhaps look into Indigenous wisdom traditions, how they see growth, how growth is done in nature, because I believe if we look deeply enough into how growth in nature happens, our heart will explode, because it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Growth is life. Growth can be absolutely life-giving. Thank you so much for listening.